Rich? How you doing, man? What are you drinking there, Julian? What do you got? Nice. Nice. Yep. Okay, well, listen, I appreciate you guys being here. Hopefully, we're beating that storm. You know, I know that storm's coming in here tomorrow morning, and then it looks, I think, this whole city of Boston's shutting down a little bit. But we're excited to start spring practice. Excited to get going again. You know, the emotional momentum coming off of the end of the season for our players was just really fantastic. You could feel it all winter long. We had as good a winter as we've ever had here. I mean, really the best. And, you know, the players' vibe, their energy, their attention to detail. You know, I think it was very uplifting for them to, within themselves, to really understand the concept of they experienced it firsthand, how to find ways to win, okay, which is something I've talked about before, which is a critical ingredient, obviously, along with the fact of, you know, getting older and developing and maturing and all those good things. So we head into the offseason with a lot of positive momentum, the bowl game, the bowl win, the first win in 9 years, and the feeling of a real positive moving forward future, the realization of the guys know that we have talent and we have a lot of good things to talk about moving forward. So we had a great winter, and that's really pushed itself into the spring. And, you know, if you're around our guys, you can feel they're not coming to practice saying, okay, we got practice from whatever, 9 to 11, you know, and then it's going to be over. For these guys, they want to maximize every day, and that's a really cool deal. So it's been a lot of fun. They got off a spring break, got a little bit of break because they had a long, grueling winter of training, but they're energized and ready to go. And in fact, I think they're a little bummed out with this weather stuff, with the advent of possibly the bubble closing and maybe having a delay in a day. Who knows, right? We actually had to delay our pro day. We had to delay that until next Tuesday from tomorrow. So, but as we push forward, we're excited. We've got a lot of things going on. On defense, we've got a bunch of really talented young players. Obviously, when you start up front, you talk about our pass rush. I mean, I think you got to be real excited about our pass rush right now. You've got Harold Landry, who came back, who we feel has got, you know, unbelievable first-round potential, All-American, and I just really think a guy that really set the tone by saying, hey, we're going to have a great team. I want to be a part of it. I want to develop and grow, and I want to get my degree and all the right things that you should be saying. And then you add in the fact that you have guys like Zach Allen, who I think, you know, is a phenomenal potential guy as a pass rusher, just a great pass rusher, and Wyatt Ray and Ray Smith. And I think the development of our front, but those three pass rushers specifically, you're talking about the guy who led the country in sacks in the best conference in college football. And then you're talking about two other guys who I think are getting ready to make the same jump that Harold made last year, right? Because a year ago, we thought Harold had potential, but we didn't know where Harold would be. Now we're looking back saying he led the country in sacks. I think these next two guys, along with Harold, and what helps it now is when you have three of those guys, you can't all of a sudden start scheming just one of those guys. So we're excited about that. Talking about our linebackers, you know, Connor Strahan is going to be one of the dominant guys in the conference, Ty Schwab. And then, of course, we have to replace Matt Milano. And we have some real talent there with Kevin Bletzer and Sharif Grice. And we have a young guy by the name of Max Richardson, who played as a true freshman last year, we think is going to be the next great one to come out of here. So quite a good core of linebackers. In the back end, we lose John Johnson. And, you know, John Johnson was a really super bright guy, you know, really made a lot of adjustments in the back end. But we have the emergence, you know, with Will. I mean, Will Harris is going to be a great football player. You know, we had Justin, we had John Johnson, but Will Harris is one of those next great ones. And then, of course, we have a bunch of corners. I mean, Cam Moore is ready to have a breakout year. I mean, he played really well last year. And Isaac Yayadam and, you know, a whole host of guys back there. So, obviously, the spots, you got Kevin Kavlik, you've got Truman Goodapple interiorly, you've got John Johnson and Matt Milano. Those are the guys. But we feel we have talented young guys. As good of players as those guys are, you wish you had them back. You know, they never redshirted, but that was the state of affairs when they got here. But we have good young talented players, as I mentioned, that we feel, you know, can really step up in those positions right now. And we are excited about them. On offense, you know, we feel right now we're ready to really make a giant step on offense, which we need to make, and we're going to make. I think you saw very tangible evidence of that in the ball game, where we ran 64 plays in the first half of that game alone, which was more than we traditionally would run in a whole game. We ran 64 in the first half. And I think, you know, with where we're headed offensively, let's talk about the position groups right now. The offensive line is going to be an older, more veteran, more mature group now. We're finally getting down that path. Our tight ends, I think they're the best group of tight ends in the conference. There's very little doubt in my mind about it. Collectively, I mean, with Tom Sweeney and Garrison and Korab and Ray Martin, these guys are very talented guys that are multifaceted. They can catch, they can split out. Ray Martin can play fullback, tight end. Korab Addazio can play wide receiver and attach as a Y. Excited about that. Our receiving core, I think Jeff Smith and Mike Walker are getting ready to have electric years. Jeff had a year where he had to become a wide receiver, and that's not an easy proposition, but you could see each game, you could see the positive future that he has. And Mike Walker, you could see it in the bowl game. And those are guys that have great speed, great hands, and they're getting ready to come into their own now. Neither guy redshirted, but they're getting ready to be juniors now. And I think you're going to see, you know, Charlie Callan has been a guy that's made a lot of plays for us in that receiving. He's the veteran guy in that receiving group. And Thaddeus Smith, those guys now have been around a while. You know, and then Kobe White, we think, has got maybe as much talent or more than anybody, right? And Kobe is going to all of a sudden hit the. So think about Jeff Smith, this unbelievably talented guy. Mike Walker, Kobe, right? And then the experience of Thaddeus and Charlie. And then, of course, you know, Benny Glines. I think Benny Glines is a guy that's really ready to pop. So, you know, there's a host of guys here, okay? In the running backs, John Hillman, I thought played his best game in the last game against Maryland. I thought we saw the old John Hillman again, and that was really exciting to see. Davon Jones came on and provided some real power in there. Rich Wilson, and then we all know that, you know, we have what we consider to be a hugely talented difference maker coming in here in AJ. Okay, so then we get to the position that you guys probably really want to talk about, is that quarterback position. And, you know, this is the first time that we're going to come into a season with two guys that, you know, played a fair amount of, you know, we feel, well, I shouldn't say played a, Darius has played some ball, and Darius is getting ready to be here. This is like his fourth year. And unfortunately he got hurt, but when you see Darius, now he's different looking now. And he has really filled out and matured, and he had a great off season. He looks fantastic. Okay? I haven't been around with a football in his hand, but I'm just talking about in the off-season program. And then Anthony Brown has just got such a high ceiling, such a wealth of talent, and he's completely changed his body as well. Both those guys can flat throw the football, okay? And they're very impressive looking physically right now. They don't look like young freshmen anymore, right? Even Anthony Brown, who's really just a redshirt freshman, he doesn't look like that right now, okay? And we're really excited about that future. And then, of course, John Fadul's been working real hard and has played a fair amount of football here. And then E.J. Perry is here as a freshman, right? And he's a talented guy. So, you know, we've got some weapons on offense. We're balanced on offense now. And we're excited about that. So our special teams, you know, Ricky Brown, you know, will be coaching the outside linebackers, the Sam linebackers, and will be coordinating the special teams. So make that actually formal announcement here right now. And Ricky's got a bunch of passion and energy and worked hand in hand with myself and with Al last year, and you know, in a off the field capacity. And you know, I can't wait. We're going to keep developing in special teams. Our coverage units, Mike has developed, and you know, and Colton is finally healthy, and so we've got a lot of positivity going on, and I'm excited about it. Can't wait to get into spring ball. Looking forward for you guys to cover it, and looking forward to continue to see the development in our football program as we move forward. So, any questions?
You touched on it real just obviously the defense is important here. It's been important for forever.
Yep.
But how confident are you in that core group of kind of returners and guys who've been sort of anchors on that defense?
Yeah.
With the sort of transition that you're going to have with some younger guys coming.
Yeah, I feel very confident. I think the biggest thing that we have to develop is the depth interiorly on the defensive line in first and second down against the run, because Truman was such a big run stopper. I'd say that'll be the biggest challenge there. Obviously, we've got a lot of guys that played a lot of football in the back end, but we're losing, a third round, fourth round guy. So, but we have talented guys, and we've played a lot of them, and they're going to keep developing and growing. I would say that, it's always hard to find the interior run stoppers. So that depth, it's the depth there that would be the biggest concern I would have. And so I want to see some of these younger guys, see how they develop in spring to add to the depth of the interior defense line. We've got depth at linebacker. We've got depth a little bit at pass rush. We've got the best pass rushing that we've had here in a long, long, long time, right? So make sure that we find that next safety in the back end and give us depth on the defensive front. Those are the two concerns on defense.
How far advanced are you when you have an offensive line intact coming into camp?
Yeah, you can do a lot more, Now, we're going to hold John Baker out of spring ball with some off-season surgery. Nothing serious, but we're going to hold him out of spring ball. So, that affects you a little bit in spring ball. But you know what it really does? It just gives you an opportunity to develop some younger guys. It might take away from your consistency level in spring ball, but I'm not that concerned about that. John's played a lot of football, so that'll plug back in preseason camp just fine. I think the most important thing is make sure he's healthy. And again, let Shane Leonard take 2,000 snaps at center, because we think he's got a lot of future ahead of him. So, but the offensive line experience allows you to hit the thing running, and and not have to hold back your installation. I mean, we're very far advanced right now.
Coach, you have top two quarterbacks as of now, I'm guessing, Brown and Wade. Neither of them have really thrown a lot of passes. When do you expect to name a starter for hopefully the season? How do you try to get them used to the speed of a game, the complexity, everything that they haven't faced yet?
Yeah. Well, I think Darius has faced it a little bit more. Obviously, Anthony hasn't faced it at all. But I think that we purposely, in spring ball, every day we compete ones versus ones, because we've been pretty good on defense around here. So we feel like, while that's not the complete answer, it's not the pressure of a real game, at least you're operating and competing against talented guys. In terms of naming a starter, I love open competition, man. I think competition brings out the best in everybody at every position. The more competition you have, whether it be all over, we have more competition now than we've ever had because our roster is more complete. That just makes you a better football team just in itself. So I never want to shy away from that, So I think we have to wait and see how the spring goes. And, could you name somebody at the end of spring? Possibly. Could you name somebody in training camp? Possibly. My hope is that it's so super competitive that that's the hardest thing in the world to do. I think that would be the best thing for us. Now, whether that's the way that plays out or not, I just don't know. So I think I'd like to just see how that goes. But, going into spring ball, Darius has taken those starting snaps because Darius has earned that. Because Darius has been here, put his time in here, has gone through being a starter, then losing a season, then not being a starter. Darius has that right to open up spring ball, taking those starting reps, but they will compete nose up during spring ball, and I think that'll make our team better.
Two quick ones for the tail. With Baker, is it still an ankle or?
No, he has some shoulder work done in the offseason. Yep.
How's Garrison?
Christian probably won't participate in spring football. Definitely not, or maybe on a reduced level. How is he? He's doing fantastic. It's just time intensive, but he will be terrific. We just have to, be careful, and the doctors are going to handle that, and then, you know, at what point they clear him and at what level, and then how we proceed from there. I think, you know, we're going to hold back Connor Strahan in spring ball, and we're going to hold back Cam Moore in spring ball. Again, they'll have some involvement, but I'm not sure to what level because of some off-season injuries that we had to clean up. Jake Burt is still rehabbing his knee, so you won't see him in spring football. Geez, am I missing anybody? I think I hit them all. I'm not 100% I hit them all, but I think I hit them all. So we have, you know, whatever I just rattled off. What was that? Was that 4, 5, 6 guys that were our starters that you won't see in spring, that you won't see in real tackling or much of any kind of real heavy situations, which, you know, you'd love to have them, but we'll be fine with that. You talk about a lot of those guys, not all of them. A lot of them have played a lot of football. So it'll give some of the depth behind them a chance to take quality starting reps, which I think will pay you back tenfold.
Steve, is there somebody with the outside speed at running back you have in the thing that can replace Tyler and Miles?
It's a good question. You know, John Hillman has outstanding speed. When he's healthy, I mean, he can flat run. I mean, he was a track guy. He could go. He's a big back. You know, he's gotten bigger than when he got here, right? So, I mean, he's substantially bigger and stronger. But he can move. But, you know, you're going to see us utilize a lot this year, you know, with the likes of Jeff Smith and Mike Walker. I mean, they have elite speed now. I mean, those guys, even in our conference, which is a really fast conference, those guys have elite speed. So the utilization of those two guys for that real edge speed. But John Hillman has speed. A.J. Dillon has bona fide speed now. I mean, fast. As fast as Tyler and Miles, just in a bigger body. But John Hillman can run. And then, you know, like I said, our goal, where we're working towards, is the ability to utilize all of our personnel. And, you know, the more utilization of guys like Mike Walker and Jeff Smith who can really fly. I mean, and they can flat carry the ball, you know. Problem is they're just, you know, Jeff was a first-year receiver. You know, Mike, for all intents, was like a year-and-a-half receiver. Those guys were young guys that now, they have a lot of experience now, you know, or a fair amount of experience. So we'll be able to extract their special talents. And whereas a year ago you got nervous a little bit because every time you try to do something more with them, you took away from their fundamental growth at that position. And it was always a balancing act, you know. So, you know, last year we utilized Jeff a lot in those situations, and it became pretty, you know, targetable. You know, but the more diversity we have with different guys having that ability, you're not as targetable. And that just gives you, you know, a better opportunity to attack the defense. And so, you know, it's kind of like that group of tight ends we have. I mean, we can do an awful lot with those guys now. Those guys can split out. We can be an empty. We can be all over the place with them. They have really good hands. They're big. Some of them run extremely well. Others run solid. And, you know, we can create a lot. And then Charlie, you know, Charlie's that big receiver who can do a lot of stuff. So we got to utilize all of our talent. And I think we're going to have the opportunity to do that. These quarterbacks are really, Scott has done a phenomenal job with them. They are really on it mentally. Really are.
First one was, just about Scott, just with a year under his belt and some time with the offense and some comfort, I imagine, with the offense. How much more do you imagine he's going to be able to be more creative or experiment?
I think you saw a little bit of that in the bowl game. I think, you know, you saw us in the first half. Maybe in the second half, we weren't quite as open as we were in the first half. I think you're going to see a lot more of what you saw in the first half and the further development of that, the proficiency. As I said earlier, we ran 64 or 5 plays in the first half. One of the problems we had in the second half of that game, believe it or not, fatigue. You know, the experience of doing what we were doing, you know, we kind of got that done during bowl prep. And there's a learning curve in there for everybody, and then a conditioning curve, which is uniquely different. But I thought you saw glimpses of where we can go. And I can only tell you this without saying too much, that you're going to see a lot more And, a lot of things hinge upon the ability for that quarterback to be comfortable in running that show. And, and the development, I think our throw game, even though I'm sure our numbers didn't bear that out yet, I think the development of our throw game, if you asked guys on our team, they would tell you that it was phenomenal. Now it's time to start to bear fruit from the work that went into that, okay? And I think you're going to start to see that with the understanding of the system by everybody involved, and then just the sheer quarterback development alone and receiver development alone. So I would anticipate our passing game to really start to bear fruit and blossom. And then I think you're going to start to see the diversity in our offense that we're dying to have show. I think we're going to start to see that stronger and throughout as spring goes. It's going to get more and more throughout spring, and we'll carry that with us.
I was curious. Does anything around the program change with the uncertainty around the AD situation, or do you kind of go on as business as usual?
No, I mean, I'm happy, obviously, thrilled and happy for Brad that he's doing something that he's really excited about. I love Brad Bates. Brad Bates has been fantastic. I've worked around and with a lot of athletic directors, and he's a football guy and has been fantastic. And, he's still here and still operating day to day. And so our life right now, we're just, we're moving. We're doing what we do. And obviously there'll be some new leadership that'll come in. But at the end of the day, my job is to develop this football team, develop our players, and just kind of, I kind of just don't really think about it, to be honest with you. I just think about what we need to do, and it's kind of what I've always done. It's really 0.0 change right now. It's all about just focusing on the development of your team and keeping your eye on what's in front of us each day, and I'm excited about that.
Coach, I was looking at the schedule, and you'll have pretty tougher schedule. You have a lot of teams like Louisville returning their quarterbacks. You have a lot of teams you'll be starting on the road. When do you want to start getting the offense sort of, ready so that when they are like last year when they had to play catch up, they can go to the pass? When do you want to start getting them used to, pressure situations so the quarterbacks are used to, playing in hostile environments, and you guys are ready to play against teams that can just pull away in a moment's notice?
Yeah. Well, we play in the toughest conference in the country. That's not debatable anymore. This year, this is the toughest conference, and we play on the toughest side of it. So we all know that. You know that. I know that. It's what it is. It's not what it was. It's a new era right now, and it's very competitive. We have to be ready out of the blocks. When we get on the road on Northern Illinois, we've got to go out there and we've got to be hitting on all cylinders. That's just the way I believe it. It's not going to be like, well, let's just, let's work on this. And we don't have that luxury, if you want to call it. To go on the road and play, Northern Illinois has traditionally been one of the strongest teams in the Mid-American Conference. At their place on a Thursday night, we're going to have our hands full. And so our mindset is that we've got to go out there at the highest capacity we can be at. It's not like, sometimes you open up with some smaller schools and you're sitting there and you say, okay, let's not do this, or let's work on, no. We're going. We are going to go 100 miles an hour. Now, in terms of our team is an older team that can handle those pressure situations. Now, the quarterbacks, one of them, Anthony Brown, of course, has not been in the limelight at all, but in the bright light. Darius has been. Now, not enough, but I mean, he played at that, started that first half in game whatever that was, 3 or whatever game that was against Florida State that year. So, just by sheer, he's got a little bit more. How do you get him ready for that? All we can do is create the most competitive environments in practice that we possibly can. We can't do any more than that. But our mindset is that we are going to be hitting at all cylinders. We are fully operational when we hit that road to go to Northern Illinois. So that's the focus. It's got to be that way, because we'll need everything. Because no matter what you say, no matter who you, opening day has had, in the history of football, the biggest mixed bag of results, because it's opening day. And you just can't account for the things that sometimes can happen. You just hope that you've practiced the right way, you've prepared the right way, and you know, I feel good about our team because a lot of those positions in like last year when, you know, like for example, the Virginia Tech game, I mean, there was a lot everywhere. There was a lot of wide eyes, okay? It's not going to be the case. Now, the most important position is that quarterback position. And so we've got to do the best we can to prepare them. But to think that that would be this, you know, 100% smooth is probably pie in the sky. But when you have a good supporting cast around them, I think you pull yourself through that pretty well, and you're careful on, you know, keeping a good positive energy around them and just working through whatever problems happen. But we've got a good supporting cast around them, and that's the good news. A veteran supporting cast around them.
Steve, did the December practices kind of give you a little bit of a blueprint of where you're going to be now?
Yeah, there's no doubt, and I think it showed in the game. And those were vital for us. Those practices were vital. I mean, you know, you think about it, right? We have 15 practices in spring ball. I think we had 16 practices for the bowl game. So we had a second spring practice, or however you want to say that, right? I mean, that's how big that is. And we attacked it that way. I mean, we kind of had some big changes, some big additions. So we're going to take another leap like we did in the bowl game in spring ball. And we're attacking our installation that way. We're not passively going at this right now. We're aggressively going after our installation. And because we feel like we made a lot of progress, it just speaks to, you know, when I look back, you know, when you get a more experienced roster, what you can get accomplished, you know. You just can't, like when I talk about Chris Lindstrom ad nauseum, he played as a true freshman at 265 pounds against Florida State 2 years ago. He's now 307 pounds. We can talk and talk, and, you know, at the end of the day, it's going to take that time-intensive process for that young man. The sad part is I wish he could have redshirted and you'd still be looking at 3 years' worth of play eligibility. When we're completely right, we're going to have that. Truman Goodapple would be coming back. John Johnson would be coming back. Matt Milano would be coming back. You know, Chris Lindstrom's got 3 years. We're getting there. We're getting closer and closer and closer. But what that just speaks to is why, when your roster's right, which is time-intensive, especially at a place like Boston College, now you can start growing. People want to like, well, what's taking so long? I mean, you know, we've covered this before. When BC's been at its best, they're playing with a lot of fourth and fifth year players, a la some of the best years in the history were Matt Ryan. They were playing with 96% seniors and fifth year seniors. Seniors and fifth year, not juniors, not sophomores, not redshirt sophomores. So we're moving that way now, and it's fun because our acceleration is much faster.
You mentioned that the supporting cast is really good this year on the offensive end. You talked about the tight ends being the best in the conference possibly, and then the O-line.
As a unit, yep.
Yeah. Do you think that makes it easier for whatever quarterback is going to step in to have such a reliable tight end core?
Yeah. I think that it's always twofold. The quarterbacks need a good supporting cast, and the supporting cast needs a good quarterback. The quarterback's the most vital position. I mean, let's be honest. You talk about who wins the Super Bowl, who wins conference championship, who wins national titles. There are always teams that have these unbelievable quarterbacks, right? Veteran, but the supporting cast needs a good quarterback and a good quarterback, and it all goes hand in hand. If you're reliant upon one, then sometimes there's a weakness. And I feel like our supporting cast is more rounded. We've had some good players, right? But now we're more rounded with a little bit of depth. The most inexperienced piece of it is that quarterback position right now. Although we feel that they're very talented, as you pointed out, they still haven't been under those, the bright lights, if you will, the firing line there, right? But I think the supporting cast will help that. And the ability for a quarterback to get the ball out fast to some experienced guys, you know, helps you move the chains and keep you on the field. Our biggest problem has been staying on the field and a lack of consistency, whether it be in the run game or the throw game, a myriad of too many fundamental breakdowns or mental mistakes, which we feel with the experience level that we're developing now, those are going to start to minimize, okay, which should give us the ability to stay on the field longer. And all those things go hand in hand with, when you're playing good teams, keeping yourself in those games and giving yourself a chance to win where they don't get away from you. Because when you're playing super talented teams, they can get away from you really easily. The margin is not as grand as everybody thinks it is. And so I think we're going to have a much more rounded team probably than we've ever had. Also understanding that even since my short tenure here, I'm going into my 5th year, the league has dramatically improved since the day I got here, I can tell you that. I mean, which is a great thing for our conference. But it has dramatically improved. I mean, you know, it's getting stronger every year right now. That's why it's the best conference of college football right now. You know, and the SEC had that title for so long, but it's not accurate right now. And our conference is going to remain strong. And, you know, when you look at the weight of a conference, look at the quarterbacks in that conference. That'll speak to that a lot. You know, and it's usually 2 things that you can look at: the quarterbacks and the quality of defense. How good are the defenses in the league? In the SEC, when they were hitting on all cylinders, and I was there, they had really good quarterbacks and they had really good defense. That was the barometer for the strength of those conferences. And the ACC, certainly this past season, fit right in line with that. With the Heisman Trophy winner, the runner-up to the Heisman Trophy winner, you know, the national champion, and several first-round draft picks. So, anyways, it's kind of an interesting study, but, you know, that's where that is. Anything else? Yeah, Julie.
What happens if it does snow as far as contingency?
Say that again. Snow?
What happens if it does snow? What are you going to do?
If they close the bubble, if the bubble's closed, then on Wednesday, then we will practice Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We have 2 non-padded practices and then a padded practice. So we'll go 3 days in a row because we don't want to get out of whack here, you know, with our schedule too far. That's it? All right, guys. Thank you. Who's that?
Doctor's still on campus?
Yeah, he's around.